Okay, we're recording, and just want to let the audience know that we've got about 1 minute before we start. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Good morning, and thank you for joining us. My name is Gary Grotto, and I'm the interim editor of the Arizona Capital Times, and I'll be moderating this morning's scoop. I know many of you were expecting Luigi Del Puerto to be here, but he's moved on to new employment, and we wish him well. Today, our panel will be talking about the future of apprenticeships in Arizona in anticipation of National Apprenticeship Week, which runs from November 15th to November 21st. Apprenticeship programs have offered workers an opportunity to learn and master technical skills, and these programs allow workers to earn a paycheck and provide them with on-the-job training. Before we get into the discussion, I want to acknowledge our veterans in the audience and anyone who has ever served in the U.S. Armed Forces, including my dad, and say thank you for your service. I want to thank you, the sponsor of today's Morning Scoop, the Powering Arizona program, the collaborative alliance between the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers Local Union 640 and the Arizona chapter of the National Electrical Contractors Association. They promote the electrical industry in Arizona, primarily in the Phoenix metro area. Powering Arizona's mission is to provide a qualified, innovative, and responsible workforce to service their customers, community, and electrical industry. And they accomplish that through education, integrity, experience, and the strength of the partnership. I'd also like to invite our audience to submit their questions through the chat, and we'll get to those, as the show goes on. We'll try to get as many as we can as the show goes on. So now let me introduce Deborah Margraf. She's the executive manager of the Arizona chapter of NECA for a few words on Powering Arizona and why they're sponsoring this morning scoop. Good morning, Deborah.
Good morning, Gary. Thank you, everybody, for joining today. The Powering Arizona team is very adamant about training of electricians in the Phoenix metropolitan area and the state of Arizona. And that's why we're here to sponsor this program today. And we hope that everybody will understand that apprenticeship is a way for a very viable career and a career in construction. And we're hoping that more individuals will start looking at construction as a career and head in that direction.
Thank you, Deborah. And now I want to introduce our panelists. The first one is Sean Hutchinson. He's the training director of Phoenix Electrical JATC. He's sitting in for Stefan Cole, who was unable to make it today. And Sean was gracious enough to join us from Hawaii, where it's 5 a.m. and we really appreciate it. And Sean, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and I guess your bio and resume?
Thanks, Gary. Appreciate it. Yeah, my name's Sean Hutchinson. I'm a training director for the Phoenix Electrical JATC Apprenticeship program. I'm a journeyman wireman, member of IBW Local 640, and I've been the training director now for going on almost 10 years. We have the program hired me about 10 years ago come from a background of working in the field, journey level work. Spent my career, I served my apprenticeship, and graduated. I'm a product of the same program that I get to manage today on behalf of our industry. And we have a program that's been around since 1943. We train apprentices through a 4-year program. They go to work in the field and work under the apprentices. Work under the direction of a journey level worker, and they attend evening and daytime classes throughout their 4 years as an apprentice. and they graduate the program at a journey level worker. It's really a great program, and I'm honored to be able to be the director for it. And for myself too, I'd like to thank all the veterans that are watching today. My dad, my father-in-law, yeah, just really do appreciate their service, and thank you all for being here today.
Thank you, Sean. And we're also joined by Sterling Woods. He's the Vice President of Field Operations at Cannon and Went Electric, the company he's been with since 1984, which makes him the most tenured employee there. Sterling was hired as an apprentice and has worked in all aspects of the electrical construction industry. And in his current position, he understands the value of safety, responsiveness, competency, and cost-effective solutions for his company's clients. Sterling is a trustee on the Joint Apprenticeship Training Committee, or JATC, and he's chairman of the Code of Excellence Committee and a member of the Drug-Free Workplace Committee. Good morning, Sterling.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
And we're also joined by Jamie Miller, the assistant principal for Western Maricopa Education Center, a career and technical education district. He began his career as an electrician in Phoenix, and over the next 10 years, he was involved in a range of large-scale projects, including hospitals, universities, military bases, retail. And after completing his electrical apprenticeship, he began teaching apprenticeship courses at Gateway Community College. And after a 10-year career in construction, he decided to pass on his extensive general construction industry knowledge by teaching high school students in the Peoria Unified School District. And pretty soon, within a year, he was promoted to the program lead across the Peoria district, overseeing all the construction training programs. Then he moved on to the Arizona Department of Education as the Construction Science Technologies Program Specialist. And he oversaw construction technology and related programs across the state of Arizona for 4 years. He plans to continue advocating for practical and engaging learning for all students. Good morning, Jamie.
Morning, and thank you for having me as well.
And our last panelist is Senator Rick Gray, the Senate Majority Leader. Senator Gray started a small business in the Northwest Valley when he moved to Arizona, and he also became an active volunteer in his community. He sits or has served on a host of boards and organizations, including the Sun City Homeowners Association, the Sun City Community Assistance Network, and the Sun City Taxpayers Association. He was appointed to the Arizona Senate in 2018, and he won re-election in 2020. And before that, he served in the Arizona House from 2011 to 2016. Thank you for joining us, Senator.
Thank you, Gary.
So I'd like to pose my first question to Sterling. Can you just start off by describing a typical construction industry apprenticeship program?
Yeah, certainly, Gary. So I'm obviously most familiar with the electrical apprenticeship program that Sean is the director of. And I personally went through that program, like you said, in 1984. And our program consists of 4-year training on a 5-year curriculum. So we have compressed a 5-year curriculum into 4-year training. And it consists of on-the-job training, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for the apprentices. Then they attend evening classes and labs throughout the 4 years, all while earning a living, working in the trade and learning their trade throughout the 4 years. After they've reached 8,000 hours of on-the-job training and completed their 5-year curriculum, then they are graduated into a journeyman wireman. And that's just the beginning of their career. And I know we're going to touch on this later, but it's amazing how many directions a journeyman electrician can go once he graduates the program. Really, he can go into management, he can go into supervision, he can go into virtual design, he or she can, and the possibilities are really unlimited.
So, as you mentioned, and as we said in your bio, you started your career as an apprentice, and now you're the VP of a large electrical company. What did that program mean to your career?
It meant everything. It was the start. And I'll be perfectly honest. Prior to getting into the apprenticeship, I'd had one job, and that was at a. And when my father was a journeyman electrician with the IBEW, and so was my brother. And I dabbled in college for a year and decided that wasn't really for me. And starting the apprenticeship program, I knew nothing about electrical work. I knew nothing about construction. And I learned quickly. I learned how to run a shovel that first year. And I learned the art of hard work. And I learned the art of being there on time and being there every day. And I think that's the platform to prepare yourself for a career. And I worked through those 4 years as an apprentice, and I learned my trade. I learned how to deal with people. I learned how to take instruction, and I learned how to be responsible. And after the 4 years, I turned out as a journeyman electrician. And it didn't take long until I moved into supervision. And of course, I'm here today as VP.
So, you got your 19-year-old kid who's waiting tables and hanging out with his girlfriend, and his dad's on his back about, finding a career. How does he get into an apprenticeship program? Or, the 35-year-old guy who's looking for a change in career, how do they get into an apprenticeship program?
We encourage them to do their research. Obviously, nowadays you would do your research online and visit some of the websites for the various programs. And, there's pipe fitter, sheet metal, carpenter. There's just numerous apprenticeship programs in the skilled trades. And once decided on if and which skilled trade he'd like to be in, then he goes through the process of applying for the program. And I'm sure Sean will touch on this, but it's a process to apply for and get accepted into one of our apprenticeship programs. We are selective as to who we bring in. We're looking for individuals that are good with their hands, good people skills, and career minded. When you do apply for apprenticeship, you're not applying for a job. You're applying for a career. And that's what we're trying to impress upon these folks is this is a commitment, a long-term commitment when you apply for an apprenticeship program. So we want to make sure that the applicants understand that, and they're not just applying for a job that might last a year or two or three. They're applying for a lifelong commitment with an excellent benefit plan, with retirement plan, pension plan, annuity plan, healthcare, and long-term employment. And of course, like I said, long-term growth. Once you become a journeyman tradesperson, that's just the beginning, and then you can move on from there.
Sean, that one of the questions I had was, do you have to be accepted to a journeyman program, sort of like college? The grades, and they look at it, you as a person and so forth. Walk me through the process that Sterling just talked about. That it sounds pretty rigorous to get accepted.
So yeah, and thanks for that question. So the process, it's there, just like Sterling mentioned. We're very selective about who we bring in. It's we get hundreds and hundreds of applications for basically several dozens of positions that open up periodically throughout the year. So when we go through our applicant pool, the applicant first makes their application. At least in our program, I think most programs are going to an online process to apply to the program. Makes it a little bit easier to submit your application. And then once we get their application and they qualify with a C or better in high school algebra, they got a high school diploma or GED, we schedule them for an aptitude test, and then we test them on their language and math skills before they are offered an interview to interview for a position in the program. We've tried to streamline this process, especially in recent years with such a demand on labor right now. We've tried to streamline this process, make it a little bit quicker in between steps, and try and keep their interest while they're going through this process. But once they sit for their interview, that's really a key factor on them getting in. I know our JATC committee is interested in applicants who are very interested in being an apprentice. recognizing the fact that they are in a competitive process to be selected. We do search for those applicants that have a real interest in being, in this case, an electrician. I know most of the other programs, in and around the valley and in the state, they operate on the same, a similar premise of being that selective. But once they're accepted, what makes us a little bit different than a traditional post-secondary track for education is that we're providing the job that's related to their field of study to that apprentice immediately. Once they get accepted to the apprenticeship, they're employed at their job on day one of their apprenticeship, and then they start the school and the work-related learning both at the same time. And that's when you compare that side by side with the colleges that you're gambling all of your tuition that you pay over the course of 4 years or 2 years or however long you go to college. You're essentially gambling that money on a job that may or may not be there at the end. And that really makes the apprenticeship programs, the difference between the two tracks for post-secondary education.
Do you have guys that might not make the cut the first time and they come back 3-4 times before they get in?
Usually it's if they're making the second attempt, you could see it's a driven member, and we do have opportunities for those that are not selected to get some experience working for some of our contractors. They'll go to work as a low-level trainee and start getting the feel for what a construction job looks like. And usually they're really, really good candidates when they do come back to us as an applicant, because they know what they're getting into at that point. Not a lot of these applicants know exactly what they're getting into when they're applying for a construction program.
I've heard the term registered apprenticeship programs. What does that mean exactly, and how does it, I don't know what other kind of apprenticeship programs there are, but what's a registered apprenticeship program?
Well, registered apprenticeship programs, they are registered with the state of Arizona. We submit a set of standards to the state of Arizona. The state of Arizona oversees the registered apprenticeship programs and ensures that they are fulfilling their obligation to their standards. The standards that we file with the state, they do outline and show the path that an apprentice it takes from an applicant all the way up through a graduate. And we're held to those standards by the state. And anytime someone, if a student is considering whether it's in the trades or some other emerging fields that are utilizing apprenticeship as their training model, anybody considering those kind of pathways should look for that registered apprenticeship, because there are numbers of training programs out there and alternatives to apprenticeship that really, they will, quite frankly, for-profit entities, and they will provide everything they say they will, but they will not provide that job that the traditional apprenticeship would provide.
All right. So Jamie, I know your area is teaching, but you've got a lot of knowledge about the construction industry and apprenticeships and so forth. So can you talk a little bit about the wages and benefits during an apprenticeship and what someone will earn after they graduate?
Sure. Well, it's changed a lot since I was in the field. When I started out, it was I think beginning wages were around $7 to $8 an hour, and now they're I think around 13 starting. And Sean might be able to speak a little better to this too, but they top out at a certain wage, and that agreement is what part of the agreement of the registered apprenticeship. And Sean, do you know that number on the top of your head of what after the 4-year program they're going to make?
Currently, the wages are at $32 an hour for a graduate.
32, and yeah, and to me, being a young man who started out at 18, you every semester got a raise as long as you were passing your classes and the classes were relevant to what you were doing. And so it's not nothing against college. College is great for those that are apt for it, but for those that like me who like to work with their hands, you're going to work. Like Sterling said, you're learning how to use a shovel, and that is an actual skill, how to use a shovel correctly. You're really going to jack up your back if you're using it wrong for too long, or you're just going to be ineffective you're working. But it's a great thing for a young person who's got the energy and likes to work outside, because you're going to work, you're working with your hands, you're learning a lot, and then you go to class and you talk about what you did that day or that week. And you have a room full of other people who can relate, and you have a journeyman who is your teacher, who's also giving you some feedback on how to do it better. And then you get the textbook information as well. So then you get to go back to work and you get to present that textbook stuff. And I recall, my late teens, early 20s, taking the textbook to work about how to bend pipe and kind of comparing it to the way that the guys were teaching us. And we sort of made it almost like a sport, like who's right, who's more accurate, the textbook or the guys. And a lot of those things line up. And so you get all these different skills and you just learn a lot in those 4 years, and you really come out a very knowledgeable journeyman, but your learning doesn't stop. And so I know it was more specific to wages, but the exciting thing is you're having a good time, you're learning a lot, you're getting credentials that will go with you wherever you go, and you're getting raises every 6 months. And so that really helps as you're planning your life and you're planning to buy a vehicle or save for a house. And also it's debt free. And so that's huge. You're not spending years in a classroom learning and not able to apply it and making no money. You're making money, you're applying what you're learning, and you're ending with a good salary, $32 an hour after 4 years, plus 4 years of experience. And if you're working overtime, it's a little more than 4 years, but yeah, so that's kind of how it works.
Okay, thank you. Now, Senator Gray, how do these apprenticeship programs help the state economically?
Well, Gary, before I jump into that, if I can tag off on some of this stuff too.
Sure.
I would like to say you'd kind of given a background of what I've done in my community down here, but I'm also a former plumbing contractor. And so I'm very, and it's nice to infiltrate all these electricians here with another trade. But I do want to add that, when, and hopefully this video, because it's being recorded, hopefully the people out there will be sending it to some of the youth that they know and let them listen to it and get a consideration. I want to make sure that if there is a young man or woman that they're thinking about the trades, or they're looking at this video, that they realize if they run into some challenges, let's say they apply for the IBEW trade and they don't get it right away. My encouragement to them is jump into construction anywhere you can. I started with carpentry, and then ended up with an opportunity to get in a more trade specific, because carpentry covers so many different areas, especially when you're doing remodeling, to get into specifically the plumbing trade. And so I jumped into that. And all four of us here that are on this forum have all gone from working at the beginning of a field job all the way up to other things. And so I want for those young people that are thinking about what do I want to do with the rest of my life, to realize that construction is extremely profitable. And there are some kids that really, they actually learn better when they're putting things together. When, in our teaching, we know that that's a kinetic learner. There are kids that just like to listen and they learn, or they read and they learn, but there's also those that have to do things to learn. And so the trades are great for them, but there are so many different opportunities out there that, if you want to get in and try something, and that's the best way to do it, is to get in and actually start doing something. If one door doesn't open, jump into another door. Just because, like for me, when I started in carpentry, that didn't mean I was going to be a carpenter. That meant I got into the construction trades. And I will tell you that it got a little addictive for me, because there was no way I could go out and make the same kind of money in a different outside of construction that I could in construction. So, regardless of what trade it is, construction is just a huge, every trade in construction is a huge opportunity. And so I would say be willing to jump into it. Now, to go back, what was your question again, Gary? Because that was kind of what I was focused on before.
Yeah. How do these programs, benefit these apprenticeship programs benefit the state economically?
Well, one of the things we've talked about, and it's kind of nationwide, but especially in Phoenix, we've talked about the housing industry, and we don't have enough houses. So that is a key issue. Can we build not only houses but buildings to keep up with the pace of demand? Maricopa County is one of the fastest growing counties because so many people are moving here. And I think it's fortunately because of some of the things we've done in the legislature to create that kind of environment. But also, let's take one of our bigger economic components here, Intel, they've just, and we've done some things this last session to open the door for them to do another building project. Now, when I toured the plumbing trade office, the pipe trades, they've got special situations where they can train their plumbers for the specialty things that a type of company like Intel needs, with clean rooms and so forth. That if they don't have that ability to have that level of construction and that level of detailed, clean construction, they can't operate their business. And so the reason we've got so much construction going here is we do have the capabilities of addressing that because of our trades and the capability of our trades to handle their requirements, their very strict requirements. So, that's a win-win for us as a state. The more these businesses grow, the more revenue that comes in, and these are all high-paying jobs. So that means that we've got more people out there making more money. They're buying more things. They're buying cars. They're buying new TVs. They're buying houses. All of those things filter down into taxes in our state coffers, which help us to pay for other things that we desperately need. So it's all a united whole where one benefits the other. And again, if we didn't have quality people able to construct and build these plants, we got a new semiconductor plant coming in. If we don't have the construction capability to handle that, we lose out as a state. People lose out because they don't get those jobs. And then when we don't have that kind of extra revenue coming into the state, when we have needs, the only thing we can do is raise people's taxes. So we're basically tied as a kind of an ecosystem, and construction is such a key part. When we had the original downturn because of COVID, one of the main things that kept us going was our construction. We had revenue from construction because things had been going so well. There were projects lined up. It's just a huge part of our economic picture as a state.
Thank you, Senator. Jamie, can you tell us how WestMech and other CTE schools complement these apprenticeship programs? Because you're dealing with young adults and high schoolers, right?
Absolutely, and it's a topic I love to talk about. Sterling had mentioned earlier the learning how to use a shovel, and that's really what we focus on, is a lot of those beginning skills that would take time in the field. And so I think traditionally it's been that we, in construction, we hire someone and we teach them, how to show up on time and be punctual, some professional skills, and also how to use these tools. And that takes time. And so the beauty of CTE is we have we've been doing that exact thing, but in the classroom, because in high school, we have them for 4 years. Now, it's not the same as 4 years in apprenticeship because they're working full time. In high school, we have them, at a CTED like WestMech, we have them for about 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. In your smaller schools, they have them for about 50 minutes, 5 days a week. So there are some variables there, but regardless of the time, we invest a lot of that time into teaching them how to use basic hand tools, basic power tools, really just get them primed. And it's not just the tool aspect, and it's not just electrical, it's all trades. I saw a comment earlier about culinary, and I won't get too far off with that, but we're just focusing on teaching them how to use skills, how to getting them OSHA 10 certified, and credentials we could talk about later too. But we're getting them all these skills that are just ready so they can step on a job site and do basic things. And so in electrical, we really value the partnerships that we have with our contractors or trade associations, because we get to hear what is it that you want them to do when they first step on a job. And a lot of that is how to bend pipe or how to wire receptacles. And so we spend a lot of time in the CTE classrooms teaching them how to wire receptacles. We throw them little problems to try to figure out, nothing too complex, but we always want to be raising that bar and challenging them so that the contractors are getting a return on that investment. So that this time of, how do I use a shovel? Well, if we know, if we've partnered, for example, with Cannon and Went, and Cannon and Went is showing our students or training our teachers to say, this is the latest method. Because tools, I mean, shovels haven't changed much, but hand tools are changing and they're becoming more efficient. And to the point where some of them actually require kind of some training. Tool manufacturers are doing little tiny changes to things, and it really makes the job go faster. It's kind of like when the swivel screwdriver came out. Nobody really understood. It was before my time, but it was a different tool. It required a little bit of training. The drill came out. There's a proper way to use a drill where you don't break the drill and you don't hurt yourself. And so that's a lot of the time spent in these CT classrooms. We want to get a lot of these learning curves out of the way during the 4 years that we have them, so that when they go on a job site, they're primed and they're ready to go immediately. And so that's one of the ways. And then we've really been taking a more, I don't want to say aggressive approach, but a real serious approach to it, where we're looking at dual enrollment, where they can start getting some of their classroom hours for an apprenticeship out of the way while they're in high school, because again, the time invested. And I know when I got into the trade at 18, I felt like it was too late. I remember thinking, I wish I could have done this when I was 16, because I've been working since 16. And I thought, if I could have been 2 years into this, I'd be much further than I am now. And that's what I wanted. My wages would have been higher. And so that's what we look at too, is, I said earlier, I think $7, $8 an hour. And I said to my contractor, what can I do to get a dollar raise? And they said, if you can bend pipe, we'll give you $1. I went to the job site. I said, can you teach me how to bend pipe? $1 raise. And those are the same conversations that we have with contractors now, is to say, if we teach these kids and they come out of our program with a certain set of skills, what does that wage look like? What might it look like versus someone who does not go through a CTE program? That's always our goal, is to just have a more trained workforce, have them ready to go. We want to help the students too. We want to pay them a little bit more because they put in the time. So that's kind of the surface, I could say, about what we're doing in CTE to get them ready for job ready, is what we call it.
So they can start as early as a freshman year?
In certain schools, yes. Every school
Okay.
has different. Westmec, we take them as a junior, and the age is not necessarily the determining factor. We at my campus have a 15-year-old. He's homeschooled, and so his credits line up to make him a junior. So he's in our program, our construction program, and he's a smart kid at 15. But with the other schools, we call them satellite schools. It would just be your general high school in any district, just about. And those classes, yeah, they do have some freshmen going into the programs, and that's when you can grab them. And I don't want to get too far off, but a lot of these kids have made, in my experience, have a good idea about what they want to do even when they go into high school. And so we're learning now that we need to get further in and get to them in middle school to start talking about the trades. And Sean, you're doing a great job with. I'll let you talk about that, but they did a good job. And Skills USA is another thing that I could discuss about how we're getting into the middle schools and just getting them aware of these opportunities. Talking to parents, because parents need to know too. A lot of the schools focus on college. Like I said earlier, it's great for some, but it's not great for all. So just seeing their options before they go to high school, and they're conditioned to believe only one thing.
Sean,
if I can add too on
Sure.
some of that with the from the feedback that I've gotten, and like I said earlier, there are different people with different learning styles. We've had people, and we've pushed for the 4-year CTE. There are kids that may not be interested in, let's say, math and decimals and fractions, but once they get into working on a program and they're in building something because they're kinetic learners, and so they're working with their hands, all of a sudden then they realize, hey, you know, I'm working with fractions and I need to work with decimals. And the feedback that I've gotten, and I've seen it when I was teaching, but I've also gotten talking with some of the teachers down here, is those kids get ignited and they start getting hungry to learn. And so where they might not have been interested in math before, because it helps them to, like with West Mech, when they've got a plane mechanic, the A&P program, they have to have that math. And so it kind of ignites them to increase their commitment to learn because they want to be able to build something. So it has that ancillary effect that even though they might not have been interested in that before, all of a sudden they have an interest and they start excelling in that too. So there's that side benefit to actually working in the trades or working in CTE programs.
Yeah, we need to improve our math skills, however we can. So my next question is for Sean. Is there a minimum age for joining an apprenticeship?
Well, to start the apprenticeship, there's a minimum age of 18.
Okay.
And to be employed in the industry, it's a minimum age of 18 in our industry. So yeah, and the so many good points being brought up. There is a serious need for there's a reason why on our standards we require a C or better in high school algebra. When they're going through the program, they are certainly tasked with or having a firsthand knowledge of circuit calculations and how to navigate through that. But yeah, no, that 18 would be the minimum age.
Okay. Now Sterling, yesterday we had a prep call and you talked about the boot camps, and when Jamie was talking about how they teach, West Mech teaches them how to use basic tools and so forth. And our discussion was, when we were young, we used to, we learned how to turn a wrench when we were 12 years old with our bicycles and stuff. And when we got 16, we tore apart our cars. And but you don't have that anymore, right? Or there's I guess a lot of kids don't do that anymore, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Gary, and I'm glad you brought that up. So the apprentice applicants today are different than the apprentice applicants back when Sean or myself applied, in which that now they're obviously they're much more computer savvy, they're more technical, and you're absolutely right. They just don't work on their own vehicles or motorcycles or mini bikes like used to. So several of the companies that participate in the apprenticeship programs have what we call a boot camp, including our company. And when we get brand new apprentices that may or may not know how to read a tape measure, we do not put them out in the field and just put them out to the woods. We run them through our boot camp program here at the office, which is also our prefab shop. So not only are they learning the trade, we're going to teach them how to read a tape measure. We're going to teach them how to hold their channel locks. We're going to teach them safety issues and what to watch out for. But they're going to be producing as well because they're working in our prefab shop, and we're going to teach them how to bend conduit while we're teaching them how to read a tape measure. And so they're productive. They're learning their trade. They're making money for the company. And then eventually they graduate out of boot camp, and then we will put them on one of the job sites. Most of the job sites that we do are larger job sites, 50, 100, 150 electricians. And it's very intimidating for a young individual to go to one of those job sites with little or no construction skill. Try to set them up for success. And then we're very careful to pair them up with a skilled worker so that they're not out there on their own. I know that several other companies, the company that Stefan works for, very similar. They have a boot camp program that runs 7 days, and they don't allow their apprentices to go onto a job site until they've completed and graduated their boot camp plan.
So today, we've got the VP of a large company. We've got a man who leads the training for an organization, and we got a school principal, and all of you have taken different paths in your career. You guys still aren't on the job site, and a career is not just on the job site, right? I mean, Jamie, can you talk a little bit about the different paths you can take in a construction career?
Looking at your options, what does the future have for me? At least that's the way I was thinking, and I've seen many others do it. Sorry, you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, now we can. Yeah.
Got a message. Okay. No, I think there's a lot of different options to go. And for me, I originally wanted to do management, and the company I was working for was actually going to pay for a bachelor's degree after I had finished my apprenticeship for project management at ASU. And I started leading a job, and I realized that I didn't want to do management. And for me, it was that I was getting a lot of unskilled workers. Well, simultaneously, I was already teaching for one of the apprenticeships in the evenings. And I realized if I invest more in this training side, it's going to help the management side to have a skilled workforce. And that's where I started weighing things out. And I just had to go with what I enjoyed, which was the training. And so I took the training, and sorry, I'm still getting messages, it's too low. But I took the training route, and I decided I would challenge myself with high school students, and I really enjoyed that. And I know Sean, he took the route of working with adults and continuing that. But there's also, as a trainer, you can be an OSHA trainer, or you can be that as a safety specialist or a safety person, or, so there's lots of options. You could go into managing your own company, starting your own company. I don't want to take from these other guys because they've taken other routes too. Let us hear from them. But I took the training side for, I would say, adolescence, and I love that. And I'll leave it there because I know Sean and Sterling, you guys have your route that you took.
Yeah, I was. You told me when I was 19, I'd end up here and running a training program for electricians. I would laugh. I wanted to be a TV weatherman. So sometimes I use that story in the high schools. But yeah, no, there's a million directions you could take postgraduate from an apprenticeship program. I was mentioning earlier to the panel before we had started that, most, if not all of the contractors that I send apprentices to go work for are also products of the same program that is sending them the apprentices. It really is the sky is literally the limit with opportunity throughout this program. And I'd also like to, touch upon a little bit of what Senator Gray had mentioned about the impact to the state. We through the apprenticeship program, we serve on a number of committees. I serve on the workforce board for Maricopa County as well. We look at numbers and we look at statistics about labor and the need for labor and all of these industries coming to Arizona. To Arizona's credit, we are a very friendly state for new industry and emerging markets. And for us to rise to the challenge of providing adequate labor to build these facilities and build and maintain them for years to come. This is a homegrown effort. Obviously housing has become a real challenge to attract workers from abroad, whether it's from other states or other countries even, to get them out here and to help us with the challenges in construction is becoming very, very challenging. And the solutions that we are going to be looking at are going to be homegrown, and those are going to be born within apprenticeship programs. because again, we need the adequate labor. We also need quality labor and skilled labor and trained, educated labor. And that's something that the apprenticeship programs are going to be tasked to do for years to come. We've grown exponentially over the last several years, just the last few years, quite frankly, and it really has put a lot of pressure on us. So, to Senator Gray, when I got you on my speed dial, and when the apprenticeship programs are looking to the state for any kind of assistance that we could use. I really do appreciate the fact that you always answer your phone and you do answer my questions, whether you agree or disagree. And I've always appreciated that relationship I've had with you over the years. But like I said, these apprenticeship programs are going to need a lot of support and a lot of help for the broader picture, because it is so important for this state to be able to rise to these challenges of these very, very highly technical buildings that are going to be constructed for these emerging markets and these chip manufacturing plants and all of the, Taiwan Semiconductor, Intel, all of them. They need skilled labor. And that's where they're going to get them. So.
Well, that's the next question is, where are you going to get them? Because I saw a report yesterday that it's going to take, 61,000 new, and I think this is nationwide, 61,000 new construction workers a year to keep up with construction. And, the same report, there was a person who said there was a labor shortage crisis. It was a crisis. Sterling, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, certainly. So I think the key there is to get the word out that the construction industry jobs are not jobs, they're careers. And, there was always a joke that Sean's program was one of the best kept secrets. It's a great program. All those programs are great programs, but it seems like it's difficult to get the word out. We've all heard that, high schoolers are told, got to go to college, got to go to college, got to go to college. Well, college isn't for everybody. And we've got to get that word out that there are alternatives to college that are just as rewarding, not only in the workplace, but financially. And, as our program and most other programs, you leave as a graduate with no debt. So the key is to get that word out, get those young people to come into these programs and start earning a living immediately and succeed and make them aware of what the opportunities are. You don't have to swing a hammer the rest of your career. Plenty of opportunity out there to go in several different directions, like we talked about earlier. So yeah, that's my thoughts, that we have got to get the word out. There's a lot of people that live in this town, but not a lot are applying for our programs, and that's where we need to improve.
Do you have any data on like how many jobs you're trying to fill over the short term or the long term here?
The only data I have handy right now is in the IBEW Local 640. We're looking to fill over 2,000 positions over the next 8 months. We expect to, do a lot of the work at the Taiwan chip plant, of course, Intel, and then of course this is a hotspot for data centers. New hospitals are popping up everywhere, and so for our industry, that's what we're looking at, is to fill that many spots in a rather short amount of time.
That's a lot of opportunities.
It is. It's a lot of opportunities, and it's a lot of high-paid opportunities.
So, Senator Gray, we talked earlier about something that's kind of cooking at the legislature in regards to CTEs.
Well, actually, it was there's been some discussion about that I've had with some people about basically allowing some of the people like Westmec or our training agencies to actually do some basically college credit classes, so that kids could not only come out with a high school degree, but also with an associate's in a trade. And I'm not sure how that's going to develop. We'll have to see what the reception is for that. As you know, this last session, we extended 4-year degree capabilities to some community colleges for specific areas, which are they're not necessarily construction related, but they are healthcare related, things that training that you would need to be able to have without necessarily, being in the construction trade. But we did pass that. So again, we need to look at, because, what Sterling had mentioned, he's talking about one trade,
Mhm.
the electrical trade.
Right.
And there's all these other trades. And one of the challenges is we need training in every one of these trades. I come from Nebraska and Omaha. When I moved down here, I was, to be blunt, I was a little shocked at the trade level of some of, or the craftsmanship of some of the trades that we've had in regular, like house construction, because there was so much building going on. They needed bodies. They just had to have bodies, and they were not trained bodies. So when you're looking at the 2,000 job openings that he talked about, you've got to realize that we've got all these other trades, and these are for, we're looking at commercial buildings, which obviously the IBEW is geared toward. They do a superb job with that, but we also have just homes that need to have that level of craftsmanship that only comes through training. And as Jamie's talked about, how to handle and operate tools, it's there's some basics to how to put things together. But when you're in the construction trade, if that's all you're a detriment, because you really need to know the physics behind that. In plumbing, if you don't know the theories behind why a plumbing system works the way it works, you can get in there and you can cause problems that future residents are going to have to face. It's the same with the electrical. If you get a handyman in there and they're doing something, you could end up burning your house down, because they know how to connect wires, but they don't know the whole theory behind what's appropriate and what isn't. So, having additional training at whether it's at the community college level or the CTEDs, places like WestMech, EVET, we need to be able to get more people involved in that and get a better level of skill and craftsmanship for every trade that we have, if we're going to function well as a state.
All right.
Gary,
yeah, go ahead.
If I could just quickly, give some accolades to Jamie as well. I was so happy to see him move into that position, knowing his background and the relationship we've had over the years. To see him take over as an administrator, one of the administrators for WestMech, having his influence in there. Quite frankly, we get some of our best applicants come from those type of programs, like Senator Gray just referenced, EVIT, Metro Tech, WestMech, all of those, those vocational preparation programs. And Jamie's going to really recognize, that the getting the familiar, getting students familiar with those most basic of skills. The apprenticeship programs are going to take care of the training part that related to the particular trade that the student is participating in. But having those background skills, like Sterling mentioned earlier, turning a wrench on a car and knowing the business end of a shovel, it's those are all really important skills, the basic skills that is very, very lacking on applicants today. So Jamie, I'm very happy to see you doing what you're doing today, and appreciate everything you guys are doing.
I appreciate it, Sean. I was going to mention too, in regard to Senator Gray's comments, absolutely correct. And that's what the partnership looks like is across the board, is we take that time to teach them the basics of tools and application materials, safety about materials, MSDS sheets or SDS sheets now, And as soon as we start getting into the theory and they start learning that foundation is when we kind of hand them off to like Sean's training program, and they kind of take over. And so we're constantly just narrowing in, and it's good for us too, because when they go to the apprenticeship, if we know of anything about this student individually, then we can share that and we can kind of talk and make decisions that's best for that person as far as what company might be best for them to work for, or just anything. Just we're trying to make it, I guess, raise our customer service level to make sure that we're putting the right people with the other right type of people for contractors. So if that makes sense.
We've come to that time where, we'll take a few questions from the audience. And one of them is it better to join a union while you're an apprentice?
I have an answer for that, Sean. I don't know if you want to, or we call.
I could tell you that, being aware of the various programs and the way they're delivered across the street, there is a bit more structure to a union apprenticeship in comparison. I mean, I don't, I'm obviously biased a little bit being a member of Local 640, but the fact that it's all centralized. Your jobs that you're placed on, because it's a very transitional industry. You will work probably for several contractors throughout your career. Some do, some stay with their company their whole time, right, Sterling? But having that central, where all your benefits, all of your retirement, everything stays under one umbrella, and that you're placed into other contractors by the program, and you're not seeking a job, you're being placed to work. That kind of structure really only exists in a union setting.
Gary,
All right.
if I
Go
might
ahead.
add to that, what I've experienced as well as an attraction to, perhaps the union apprenticeship programs is your raises are automatic, and they're based on your level of schooling, and they're based on your hours of on-the-job training. And then your raises come automatically throughout the entire program. So you don't have to go to your boss and ask for that dollar raise. Everything is already pre-negotiated for you.
Okay. So I got one question here. All it says is high school career guidance counselors. And I'm going to ask Jamie, I mean, where do they fit into this? Are they still telling kids to go to college, or are they sending kids your way?
Taken a turn. I would say a while ago, yes, counselors were directing children, high school students, to go to college. And I think it was out of ignorance. And I mean that in the nicest way. I don't mean that it was anything on anyone's fault. But I think that they just didn't realize that there were these opportunities. And I think a lot of people have this idea that you go into this shop and mess around and that's it. But that's not what CTE is. CTE is, we're offering students credentials, we're offering them pathways. And so the guidance counselors have been instrumental in helping to not only for them to understand what opportunities are out there and how it works, because a lot of them didn't know about apprenticeship, or that it was 4 years, or it was earn while you learn type of work. And so I would say the CTE Association of Arizona has done a wonderful job at inviting guidance counselors to conferences and opening the door for counselors across the entire state of Arizona to get involved and go to our workshops and learn about these opportunities. And it's going really well. A lot of guidance counselors are understanding what CTE is, and they're also understanding what apprenticeship is and what it looks like. And so that's what I was going to say with recruiting too. I have not been to a school. I can't say every school in Arizona. I just haven't been to a school in Arizona that does not have some type of career counselor office where any contractor could go in and drop off some papers. And in my opinion, my experience, you want to do more than that. If you're really going to start recruiting, you want to develop a relationship with that school, with those students, with the staff. It takes time, but you will see return on investment. But yeah, just the guidance counselors. I mean, at West Mech too, we have guidance counselors at every site. And it really helps because it helps the students to know where to go. And that really is, I think, the link between contractors and our students. And they help them with resume writing. We do interviewing skills. And so it's huge. It's come a long way, I would say.
All right, well, I got one little plug here. So if you want information on this is for the audience, if you want information on the electrical apprenticeship, go to www.p as in Paul, E as in Edward, JATC.org. And that's it for today, gentlemen. I thank you.
Can I plug one other website? Because
yes,
if it's about apprenticeship overall,
yeah.
AZ WACA, Western Apprenticeship Coordinators Association. It is a site that captures all of the building trades apprenticeship programs. That's www.azwaca.org. And that you can find out information about every single apprenticeship program that's offered.
All right, thank you. And thank you, gentlemen. I had a great time talking with you and learning about apprenticeships and construction. And I'd like to thank our sponsor once again, Powering Arizona. And, thank you guys again. You did this to get the word out and about apprenticeship programs, and you did a really good job at it. And I also want everyone to know that we've got 2 morning scoops planned for December. Don't have all the details ready yet, but keep an eye on your inbox. And I'm Gary Grotto with the Arizona Capital Times. Have a wonderful day.